Many Americans supported political promises of bringing back jobs, strengthening the economy, and putting America first. But now, some of these promises are being tested by reality. Welcome to the reality room. Please do not forget to like our video, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comment section.
There are white people going viral right now for their regret over voting for Donald Trump. And I put that word into heavy quotation marks because I genuinely question if they even know what the word regret means. One woman in particular got on TikTok crying a whole theatrical production about how people are not greeting her with open arms, how they're being mean to her in her comment section. Lady, are you fucking for real? Somehow you are the victim, not the millions of people harmed by the very system that you voted to prop up not once, not twice, but 3 fucking times. Not the immigrants who lost their family members to deportation or concentration camps. Not the communities of color who have been terrorized by the very policies that you voted to enable. You're the victim because people were mean to you in your comment section. And this tells me everything I need to know about your regret. You're not sorry, you're uncomfortable, and you're confusing the two. You claim that you're doing the work, yet at the first sign that that work becomes difficult, you make videos crying to garner sympathy for yourself. So the emotional labor falls on everyone else again. And then to make it worse, there's a whole slew of people in her comment sections coddling her. Oh, you're such a good girl because you realize that you made a mistake by voting for him 3 times. It's so brave of you to speak up. Then, some of you have the fucking audacity to police how other people respond to this video. Specifically, the people that MAGA spent years targeting. People of color, the LGBTQ community, immigrants. You want them to welcome ex-MAGA with open arms. You want them to perform forgiveness for your comfort. The people that we should all have sympathy for are the ones who have been harmed, not the ones who do the harming and are now sad because everyone remembers. But here's the part that really gets me. Same crying video. She said she won't be voting in future elections. So instead of working to dismantle the oppressive system that you helped build, your solution is to throw your hands up and do nothing but cry online. That is not remorse. That is not doing the work. That's pandering for likes and comments to appease your praise kink. That's demanding forgiveness without actually earning it. Look, if people want to coddle ex-MAGA voters, that's your prerogative. Nobody can stop you for handing out participation trophies. But if you are an alleged regretful MAGA, do not expect anyone to forgive you. Do not expect a warm welcome. Do not expect marginalized communities to throw you a fucking parade. Do the fucking difficult work. Sit with your discomfort. Sit with the fact that people are rightfully angry at you. And sit with the fact that your regret doesn't undo any of the damage that you caused. The only way you will maybe, and that's a big if, be welcomed back into a society that is rightfully skeptical of you is if you spend the rest of your life proving that you are worth redemption. That means voting for progressive candidates who actually want to help people. That means showing up to protests. That means putting your fucking body on the line. That means doing the hard work even when nobody is clapping for you. Otherwise, save your fucking tears and go cry about it in your journal.
What I need the world to realize is that Americans do not give a shit about you. The majority of Americans don't even know that your country exists. They wouldn't be able to even pick it out on a map. If the United States government decided to yeet your country off of the face of the earth tomorrow, the majority of Americans would not bat an eye. Half the country would support it. The majority of the other half are apathetic to it. The people in this country who actually give a shit about the world are an extreme minority. And so why does the world continue to care about America in this way? Following American trends, adopting these cultural practices that are largely rooted in consumerism, looking up to American celebrities and public figures, this country and its people are nothing to emulate. American consumption habits are literally destroying the world. This country is only 5% of the world's total population, but is responsible for a quarter of the trash that it produces. The parasitic government will destroy countries without batting an eye. and realize Donald Trump is not the first to do this. But the world is a little bit too complacent, just as Americans are. And people are waking up to it, but not enough. This country has done so much to destroy the world, and people are too passive in accepting it. And so the world needs to boycott America, not just regarding consumption, but culturally and socially as well.
If you think blatant racism towards white people doesn't exist, then watch this.
I have the distinct honor to be able to come before you and say I actually lost white population in my community. I lost them. They left. They left. I didn't ask them why. They left. So if you see 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 whites in my neighborhood, they're passing through. So, but that's on a serious note. We got 13,000 black elected officials in this country. We've had mayors, we've had governors, we have city council members. We need to get radical.
So that's Charles Barron. He is an American activist and a politician who serves on New York's city council. Can you imagine saying this about any other race? That you got a bunch of blacks to move out of your neighborhood, and if you see a few blacks walking by, then they're just passing through? Imagine. But it is completely socially acceptable to say this about white people. In fact, when you say something like this, you will be met with applause and snaps.
My community. I lost them.
This is racism, blatantly so. It is not okay. I can't believe that even has to be said. And why are we allowing this? Because we're holding white people responsible for the actions of people that may or may not have even been their ancestors. Can you imagine punishing people to this extent, talking about them in this way because of the past, a past that they weren't even a part of? He closes his statement by saying that he needs to be more radical. I don't think so.
Imagine the reaction to White History Month. Imagine the headlines over an all-white scholarship. Imagine the outrage over white entertainment television. Imagine the backlash if white-owned businesses were openly promoted just because they were white-owned. You already know what would happen. Media outrage, cancel culture, but swap the words and suddenly it's different. Then it's called empowerment. Then it's called representation. Everybody gets told to be proud of who they are. But the minute a white person says, I'm proud to be white in America, it's not taken as pride. It's racism. Instantly. No questions asked. You are expected to feel guilty for a skin color you did not choose. Judged for how you were born. Blamed for history you did not live. Told your identity is the only one that must come with shame attached. Think about how absurd that is.
So even though I don't look like one, I am an immigrant, and I was a little bit ignorant about how important race is in the United States. Of course, before I came here, I knew about American history, but I didn't know like how deep it was, if that makes sense. I came here when I was 25 years old. I didn't have any friends, I didn't know anybody, and I was working with Black Americans at the time. One time they invited me to a cookout. I go to a cookout, I'm sitting outside at the pool. I see this young black man who's really handsome, but I'm not thinking much of it because he looks younger than me. At some point I go to the kitchen and I see this nice lady who happens to be the host, and she goes, oh, who are you? I haven't met you. And I told her, oh, I'm, this and that. I am here with so-and-so. And so she goes, oh, you are so pretty. Have you met my son? He's sitting outside. Do you like hiking? He loves hiking. And so she is trying to get me to talk to him. She pulls me to the door and she calls him. And he's looking at her like, what? And so he doesn't seem to be very interested on getting my information. And I started to feel a little embarrassed. But he gave me his Instagram, or I think I gave him my Instagram. And we ended up talking for a little bit. It's late, cookout is over, and I go home. He follows me on Instagram, I follow him back, and I'm scrolling down on his page, just a little curious. and I see a picture of his girlfriend. I go, oh my gosh, this is so weird. Why would his mom do that? You know, I think that's so disrespectful, at least in my culture. My mother-in-law would never. And I don't know, his girlfriend was white, but I'm not thinking much of the race part of the situation because, like I said, I didn't know at the time. Later on, I'm talking to somebody else about it, and this person go, oh, didn't you know? And I'm like, what? And this person goes, well, some white Americans don't want their kids to date black Americans and vice versa. And this person was a black woman, and she told me, you know, I would rather my kid to bring home a woman who looks like me. And I'm like, okay. Whether you believe me or not, that was the first time I ever heard something like that in my entire life. In my country, about 15 to 18% of the population is white, and we date each other. We share the same culture. And if I ever dated a white man from my country, that wouldn't be considered to be an interracial couple, like you guys call it in the United States. I don't know, I guess I was living in a bubble. There's a lot of things that I am still learning about the United States, but I think it's really sad. I also understand that because I was not born here, there is a lot of things that I will never be able to fully understand because I never experienced United States racism. But you know, maybe I don't know, his colorism in Hispanic culture, but not to that extent, if that makes sense. But anyways, I hope these things one day are completely over and people just treat each other like we are, which is humans. But anyways.
And this is what I mean by white people been lying. The cotton business was the #1 trade in America for 33 good years. So if the cotton trade was #1 in America for 33 good years, how can we not find no record of how much money that they made? The argument was, after time went on, like civil rights movements and black people actually standing up, they tried to say, oh, we didn't even make that much off y'all. So why the fuck I can't find it then? Why I can't see? Why is it so hard? Then this is something else that triggered me. How did you look up who was the person that owned the most slaves? He had 1,092 slaves, right? During the peak years of the slave trade, or not the slave trade, during the peak years of cotton trading, which was the #1 in America, it was 2 million slaves. So where the fuck was the other ones? Is somebody lying?
If I sign a lease with a start date and an end date, I agreed to be out by this date. You are not owed a notice to vacate if I am leaving when my lease ends. If I did not sign a lease renewal that says I wish to continue past that original date that I said I wish to stay here into a future date, then I am agreeing to leave whenever I originally said within that original lease that I am leaving. And don't be like, oh, but they need to know so they can start advertising it so that they can get new tenants so that the property doesn't stay empty and they don't lose any money. I don't fucking care. We have a housing crisis in this country, not because there aren't enough houses, but because there's fucking landlords who just keep raising rent despite the fact that they don't need to. They're making profit off of this thing that is a necessity. I am so fucking tired of American capitalism, private property, landlord fucking bullshit. I'm tired of it. People should have a place to live. There shouldn't be homeless people. This is ridiculous.
You know how most white Americans, like, discovered that racism still existed in America in, like, 2020 with, like, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor and stuff? And they all just had these, like, amazing, like, they came to these conclusions. Oh, what? The cops aren't good? Whoa. Black people are still oppressed in this country? I had no idea. And every black person was looking at them like, hello? Are you serious? I can only imagine that is how Arab leftists who have spent so much time and energy trying to educate people about the situations that they have endured in the Middle East and like Western efforts to destabilize the Middle East and how that has like made life so hard for so many people in the Middle East. And they've been trying and begging people to like pay attention and see them as human beings for so long. waking up one day and seeing that a bunch of baby leftists on TikTok have finally found a Middle Eastern person to listen to and empathize with, and it's the fucking son of a Saudi billionaire who worked with the CIA. I can only imagine these are similar experiences.
Black people know things white people don't. Before I go on, you can check my video notes for the references I used to create this video. Generations of white Americans were raised with a story that made us feel like heroes. We learned about abolitionists, not about the banks that provided insurance on enslaved people. We learned about the civil rights movement, but not about the white mobs who terrorized black families for trying to move into a better neighborhood. Systemic racism didn't just hurt black people, although they were the ones that took most of it, but it also misinformed white people, and that pisses me off. It trained us to see unfairness and injustice as progress. That's why when black folks talk about redlining, medical racism, or why certain laws hit their communities so much harder, many white people are just confused, or worse, and probably more commonly, they're defensive. It's not just ignorance, it's conditioning. The system made sure we didn't see the whole picture, because once we did, we might start asking too many questions. White people need to hear the truth from people who live it. But that takes a toll on black people. They've had to survive what we've only begun to learn about. And it's not fair to put that burden on them. That's why I study, listen, and talk to other white folks. It's not about guilt, and it's not about blame. It's about repair. Black people already know this history. White people need to know it too, because it's our history. It's our history too. Silence keeps the system working in the way that is unjust. Don't be afraid. You should be mad about what was kept from you on purpose. Now you have the opportunity to learn about it and start organizing your life differently. I am not an expert, but I love learning. You can put my username into your search engine. Scroll down if you want to help me out. You guys are the greatest. Get curious.
So, they think it's about 300,000 Americans in the Middle East, and they're stranded. And so Marco Rubio and the State Department tell them, if you're stranded, please call this number. If you're an American and you're stranded, call this number. And this is what the number says when they call.
Please do not rely on the U.S. government for assisted departure or evacuation at this time. There are currently no United States evacuation points. Please continue to check the embassy's website for updated information.
That is diabolical. The United States should be ashamed of themselves.
The latest US job report delivered a warning. Instead of adding jobs, American employers cut off 23,000 jobs. What happened when the policies that people supported begin to have consequences they never expected? Some of the Americans who supported President Donald Trump are actually regretting why they did so. Not actually everybody, but some of them are regretting the reason why they voted for Donald Trump, because ever since then they have not been living well, they have not been doing well. The economy keeps going down by the day. Things become more difficult for some of them, and as such they tend to regret why they supported these policies. At first, some of these Americans who supported these policies thought only the blacks would be affected. But unfortunately, they too are not excluded. They too are facing the same difficulty as every other person. They are not excluded, no preferential treatment for anybody. Everybody is being treated the same way. It is somehow frustrating for some Americans because when they were voting for those policies, they knew that a lot of things were going to go well. They knew that all the promises that were made were going to come to pass. They knew that they were going to live a beautiful life. But unfortunately, things did not go as expected. So some of them have turned to regret the reason why they voted for this policy, because this policy is not only affecting Black people, but it is affecting them as well. Nobody is excluded. They too are facing the hardship like every other person.